A chance to assess just how serious these two teams are in their challenge for the championship. Chelsea second in the table, Arsenal third. It's a long time since this particular London derby saw these two teams so highly placed in the Premiership. Dan Petrescu with the throw, back off the chest of Vialli. Bit of a thump upfield to try and find his colleague Mark Hughes. The striking pair for Chelsea tonight. Hartson battling shoulder to shoulder with Leboeuf, and Arsenal get the decision. Here's Bergkamp. Just nicked off his feet by Leboeuf. Bergkamp. Back to Dixon. Here's Bergkamp. Weaving his way into the penalty area. It wasn't a bad cross. No pressure on Karine. Dennis Bergkamp, just 2 goals so far in Arsenal's campaign, both coming from the penalty spot. Erland Johnsen for Chelsea, and successful appeals by the Arsenal back line that Mark Hughes was offside. Mark Hughes, fresh from his exploits with Wales in midweek. John Lukic with an early opportunity in Arsenal's goal. David Seaman having come back from the England trip with a hamstring injury. Ray Parlour. Here's Steve Bold. Chelsea getting at them very quickly. But Keown finding room on the right. That was well picked off by Leboeuf again. He took up a good position. Oh, and he was brought down then by Lee Dixon. That'll certainly be a free kick. And it may be more than a sharp word for Lee Dixon. Referee Keith Burge of Tonopandi reaching very quickly for the yellow card. And he wants to make sure that Dixon has got the message. Well, that's a 4-point offence for Lee Dixon. And we've only had 3 minutes. Here's Vialli. Clark. Hughes again just offside. He'll have to watch that. That's twice in the first few minutes Mark Hughes has strayed beyond the last defender. Martin Keown wearing Arsenal's captain's armband, and now it's Bergkamp's turn to be offside. Leboeuf. For once, the pass from the Frenchman wasn't well directed. And here's Ray Parlour. That might fall nicely for Vialli. He's just inside the challenge of Keown. And the referee, Keith Burge, saw no offence in the challenge. And meanwhile, here come Arsenal. Here's Hartson. Sliced off the outside of the left boot. But Arsenal quick to counter-attack after the saving tackle from Martin Keown, their captain, just outside their own penalty area. Hartson looking to add to the 1 goal that he scored so far. Erland Johnsen. Hughes. Here's Andy Myers. Dennis Wise. Di Matteo. And here's Petrescu. Quick feet carried him away from Ray Parlour's attentions. Myers trying to go around Lee Dixon. Oh, and he's got the better of him very well, Myers. In with the outside of his foot. Dennis Wise. This is good pressure from Chelsea inside the first 5 minutes. Burley, Hughes, sensed Wise coming in support. It's a penalty. He had a good long look at it, Keith Burge. Wise went down. Steve Bould with the challenge. Arsenal hearts were in their mouths. It's a foot or two inside the penalty area. Bould was quickly back on his feet. But he turned to see Keith Burge pointing at the penalty spot. And what a great early chance this is for Chelsea. The ball placed on the spot by Frank Leboeuf. And John Lukic in goal for Arsenal, with David Seaman injured after the England trip, is beaten in the first 5 minutes. Chelsea, who've yet to concede a goal in 3 Premiership outings. Already a goal to the good in the London derby. It's Frank Leboeuf's second goal for Chelsea. Scored the first of their 2 goals against Coventry in the last match. And now Chelsea's League of Nations 1 up. And here's Wise, they're just storming at them. It had to stick because Mark Hughes was coming in. And Dennis Wise, in a way, epitomising everything about Chelsea. They're just so on their toes and so full of running. Erland Johnsen covers, and that will be goal kick. Steve Morrow, another of several players on the field tonight who were away on international duty in midweek. Keown in very sharply. Bergkamp trying to direct it to Hartson. That's an Arsenal ball. Referee seems to change his mind. Erland Johnsen. Parlour out to Lee Dixon. An early blow for Arsenal, from which they will have to recover, but Chelsea have set about this match in a very determined fashion. And Martin Keown a little bit too determined in his challenge. That's a free kick. Winterburn knocks it forward, and here's Bergkamp. Oh, he did very well to keep it in play, Bergkamp. But Chelsea have covered, and here's the penalty scorer. Linnigan, who went in quickly. Keown knocks it up. Well, it's a very sharp and pacey start to the match. Hughes has claimed it, and then he was tripped, was he, by Keown? It's a free kick. Arsenal are under pressure, there's no doubt about it. Chelsea with a really vibrant start. Not the return to Highbury that John Lukic would have wished on a free transfer from Leeds. Petrescu. Oh, there was a little shout from Di Matteo. Leboeuf. Steve Clark. Vialli. And a push penalised, the free kick quickly taken, but the tackle came in just as sharply, and 1 or 2 tackles are flying in at the moment. That's another free kick. There's a A little bit of an undercurrent in this match. Well, you'd always expect a keen edge of rivalry between sides that are neighbours in London. Here's Craig Burley. Hughes. It's Bold who won it, but it comes out to Di Matteo. Vialli. Here's Burley just offside. Well, you get the feeling there are going to be one or two offside decisions in favour of Arsenal's defence, but there may also be one or two that Chelsea get the better of. And they just managed to get a man free. Well won by Erling Jonsson. Knocked forward by Steve Bold. And this time it's Erling Jonsson who's penalised. Two wins and one defeat so far for Arsenal as the free kick is taken. Paul Merson out to Nigel Winterburn. Here's Steve Morrow. Merson. There's an offside flag up anyway before Karim claimed it. Steve Clark. Here's Andy Myers. Now Bergkamp, but he's just got Hartson ahead of him. That's well done, but the flag's up. It won't count. Well, it didn't matter anyway because he didn't succeed in putting it in the net, John Hartson. Merson who spotted him, but the offside flag was up straight away. Martin Keown with the throw. We've had just over 10 minutes and Arsenal are a goal down at home. Foot up, free kick. Hartson's offside. Well, the crowd don't like it, but the referee's assistant, as the linesmen are now called, is there to do that job. This is Erling Jonsson. Linnigan gets the better of Vialli. Hartson's cushion header intended for Merson, stolen by Wise, who spots Andy Myers making a break down the left, faced by Dixon. It wasn't a bad shot, was it? Craig Burley. Chelsea keep the pressure on and look to add to the one goal that they've already scored. Lukic covering the post. Both these teams under new management this season. Chelsea now under the care and control of Ruud Gullit. Arsenal with the caretaker boss, Stuart Houston, soon to be replaced when Arsene Wenger arrives. Well, it was well won by Bergkamp. He didn't seem to look at the ball before he jumped, but he won it. It's awkward. Wise, Andy Myers, again Chelsea keep the pressure on. Here's Burley. This is Steve Clark. Vialli made the diagonal run towards the near post. Clark spotted him. That was the link-up which produced Vialli's goal in the 2-0 victory over Coventry. Steve Clarke to Vialli. Well down by Hartson. It's neat by Chelsea again. Vialli. Vialli. There's a player on the overlap on this right side. It's Petrescu. Out off the head of Steve Bold. Wise fancies his chance. And Lukic just able to smother it. But it's a really bright, impressive start by the team whose start to the season has only been bettered by Sheffield Wednesday. Hughes, Wise, Burley, Petrescu. Here's Erland Johnsen. It's really crisp and impressive football that Chelsea are playing. Petrescu tries to time the pass to Mark Hughes to avoid offside, but doesn't succeed. Andy Linnigan with the kick. Here's Steve Morrow. Martin Keown. It's intended for Bergkamp, but he's got Steve Clarke wrapped all over him, and Arsenal get the free kick. So an opportunity perhaps for Arsenal to put some pressure on the Chelsea goal. With the big men from the back all coming forward. Linnigan's in there, Keown's in there. Steve Bold trying to find some room for himself. Bergkamp takes it. Here's Keown. Winterburn is the back man. Dixon. Erland Johnssen's header out, and Dennis Wise. And Chelsea start another one of those swift counter-attacks. Here's Di Matteo. Oh, he got the better of Linnigan so easily. Di Matteo. Well, it's finally gone behind for a goal kick. But this could be a long and difficult night for Arsenal. The Italian Roberto Di Matteo just nonchalantly almost nicked it through the legs of the defender. Linnigan untangled his feet and finds Paul Merson. Arsenal's crowd trying to lift their team. Here's Bergkamp. Morrow. Can't find a way through at the moment. Here's Morrow. Winterburn. Bergkamp. Morrow. Bergkamp was the intended recipient, but Leboeuf covered him very well. French international, who was in the Euro 96 squad, but didn't make an appearance. Vialli patrolling up front with Mark Hughes. Linnigan, Bergkamp, Erland Johnsen covered. Karine has to use his feet. Arsenal with a throw. Here's Bergkamp. There were three Chelsea players to mark him. Appeal for a free kick, which he didn't get. Andy Myers. Dennis Wise. Again, Chelsea showing that crispness. Petrescu. Here's Di Matteo. Arsenal able to smother it, and that's a good ball to John Hartson. The threat would have been greater if he'd carried it in his stride. He didn't. Here's Parlour. He went down under the challenge of Andy Myers. No penalty. Arsenal's best break, but the referee happy that the defender didn't commit a foul. Well, the Highbury crowd didn't see it quite the way the referee did, and the boos are now ringing out around Highbury. Hughes into Petrescu. It's out off Di Matteo. Well, Winterburn finally gets it to Hartson, who gets it out to Paul Merson. Keown. Bergkamp on the chase. That's kept in play by Dixon. Here's Ray Parlour. That's a corner. Martin Keown up from the back as Arsenal take this corner. Hooked out finally by Craig Burley. Arsenal now enjoying a spell of sustained pressure. Ray Parlour. It's a bit short. But here's Bergkamp from a deep position. Now loses possession. Well, there were some really accusing looks at Craig Burley because he's surrendered possession by a misdirected pass. Ruud Gullit obviously drilling it into them on the training ground that you don't give the ball away lightly. Here's Nigel Winterburn. Was easily dealt with. Petrescu to Vialli. Didn't succeed in finding Mark Hughes. Another offside. The respective positions at the top of the Premiership, second and third, has certainly given an extra edge to this encounter. Here's Erland Johnsen for Chelsea. Aimed at Mark Hughes. This is Andy Linnigan. But he's got away with it. Here's Morrow. Petrescu. Oh, that's a great ball by Leboeuf. Craig Burley to Petrescu. This is the crispness and the sharpness about Chelsea, was such a joy to watch. Vialli having his shirt tugged. Strong enough to keep the ball and keep his feet. Petrescu, they're into the penalty area. Trying to tee up Myers. Arsenal looking to hit them quickly on the break. That's Lee Dixon well forward. It's a Chelsea throw. Ball was already out before the defender touched it. Dennis Bergkamp back inside his own half, losing out to Vialli, who went down under a strong challenge from Ray Parlour. Free kick. I'm sorry, it was Andy Myers, isn't it? Dennis Wise just touches the free kick to Leboeuf. Hit the referee. John Hartson. Arsenal still trying to get something going. Steve Morrow. Paul Merson. Here's Bergkamp, no offside. Has he waited too long? It flashed across the face of Chelsea's goal, and from Arsenal's point of view, nothing accrued from their most promising moment in the first half. Just lifted over the defence. There were questioning looks at the referee's assistant, as he's now called, but there was no flag. And there wasn't a goal either for Bergkamp. Just 2 from the penalty spot so far for Arsenal. Came back off the head of Myers to find Paul Merson. Here's Myers. Mark Hughes. Di Matteo. This is Erland Johnsen. Inside the last 20 minutes of the first half, Arsenal still trailing to that penalty goal, scored in 5 minutes. Here's Ray Parlour, blocked by Craig Burley. Free kick now, this is interesting. Parlour back on his feet. The free kick perhaps 6 yards outside the penalty area, in a fairly central position. Paul Merson and Dennis Bergkamp in conversation as Chelsea set their defensive wall. From the position that Dennis Bergkamp has taken up, it looks as though he will strike this. Indeed he does. Annoyed with himself that he got underneath it. Always looked to be rising too quickly. Mark Hughes. Di Matteo beaten in the tackle by Keown. Obstruction, free kick. Merson blocked. As we move towards the last 15 minutes of this first half, Arsenal with a free kick, which Nigel Winterburn has placed with great care. Chelsea with everybody back to defend, and that's aimed at Merson. Out by Mark Hughes. Here's Vialli. This is Parlour. Vialli took it off him. Leboeuf. Oh, well done, Craig Burley. Winterburn rather dived in. Here's Vialli. Force wide. Oh, it's in! Lukic has made a hash of it. Vialli squeezed it in between keeper and post. But surely John Lukic in today because David Seaman has got a hamstring injury. Surely he should have had it. It hit the arms of the keeper. He didn't keep hold of it. He didn't force it behind for the corner. Somehow it squeezed its way past him. And Chelsea are ahead by 2-0, and we haven't yet reached half-time. Vialli gets his second goal in the Premiership. Hughes. Keown takes it off him, but... Well, the whistle has gone because Chelsea have got a player down who needs treatment. And it's the goal scorer, Gianluca Vialli. If the director's listening to me, because we won't show these bits anyway, can we have a close-up of John Lukic, please? Have you got an isolated shot of John Lukic, please? That's the Arsenal goalkeeper. Here's Merson. Karine looks untroubled. For once, Chelsea defenders allowing an Arsenal player just a little bit too much room. Hughes goes on the outside of Andy Linnigan. Here's Dennis Wise. Petrescu. Di Matteo. Here's Craig Burley. Succeeded in keeping it in play. Di Matteo. Petrescu. It should be Lukic's, but nothing certain. Winterburn takes it off Petrescu. Here's Hartson, rather. This is Merson. Dixon. Arsenal desperate to get on the score sheet as we move into the last 10 minutes of the first half, but that's goal kick. Hughes scrapping with Keown. Myers. Oh, and Hughes has gone down now. Here's Andy Myers. That'll be a free kick to Arsenal. Referee just having a quiet word between Martin Keown and Mark Hughes. There was a little clash between them a moment or two ago and the ball wasn't around, which ended with Hughes on the floor, but I think it was accidental. Certainly there was a nod and a sort of a semi-handshake between them. Ray Parlour. Here's Nigel Winterburn. Time running out in this first half for Arsenal, inside the last 10 minutes. Parlour strong enough to win it, but it's Chelsea who come out with it in the form of Steve Clarke. And again, it's one of these quick, sweeping breaks by the team in blue. Clarke as well. He's got Petrescu on the overlap. He's got 3 to look for if he's got a good cross. That same for Mark Hughes, who won it. Here's Vialli. Blocked by Lee Dixon. But you have to be impressed with the way Chelsea are playing. Hughes won the header. Lukic smothered it at the near post. And when Vialli tried to knock it back in, Dixon blocked. But they've still got to defend from the corner. Dennis Wise has given a signal. That's tight. Lukic will be glad that it stuck to his gloves as well as it did. It's an Arsenal throw, which Bergkamp wants to take quickly, but there was a lack of support. Winterburn. Merson takes it off Parlour. That's out to Lee Dixon. Vialli covers him. Keown goes on the overlap down the right. And that's poorly directed. And again, Arsenal have failed to seriously threaten Chelsea's goal. And we're nearly at half-time. And they're trailing by 2-0. Burley, Petrescu. It's Andy Linnigan's defensive header. I'm sure whether Winterburn wanted it. Erland Johnson keeping it alive. Oh, there was a little nudge in the back of Mark Hughes and the kidneys from Andy Linnigan. It's the sort of attention that he's used to receiving from defenders. Just winded him for a moment. Dennis Wise takes the free kick. Here's Vialli. He's got Petrescu in support. All the Chelsea players are just eager for possession. Here's Di Matteo. Keown just hacks it out. Steve Bold. Here's Steve Morrow. Oh, he's dispossessed by Di Matteo, but the whistle saves Arsenal any further embarrassment. Free kick. Keown. Out by Steve Clarke. That's Linnigan. Well, Morrow didn't want it because Wise was marking him very tightly. Here's Hughes. Wise, Petrescu, eager as ever to get down that right flank. Explaining to Petrescu where he did want it. Meanwhile, here's Paul Merson, and that's yards offside by Hartson. Well, from a wide position like that, Hartson able to see right across the Chelsea back line. Really no excuse for being offside. Hughes. Petrescu. Dennis Wise, one of only 2 English players in this Chelsea side tonight. Here's Vialli. Oh, it was a nice touch. You could see what he intended. He tried to steer it into space. And here's Di Matteo. Well, the whistle will have to go. It's a free kick, Arsenal. And here's Martin Keown. Bergkamp. They're having to scrap for every ounce of possession, Arsenal. Referee waving play on. Winterburn. We're inside the last 5 minutes of the first half. Keown didn't want it. Merson. Well, Chelsea just having a word with Burley there, because he didn't need to knock it upfield quite so quickly. Martin Keown. Kari knocked it down because he knew that his next step would carry him outside the penalty area. And Arsenal have just surrendered possession again. Here's Vialli. That's aimed at Hughes. Di Matteo. There was an offside flag anyway against Hughes, but the referee has waved play on with Arsenal in possession. Karin patrolling the full distance of his penalty area. Arsenal have already suffered one 2-0 defeat this season up at Anfield. Steve McManaman, scorer of both of those goals, but 2-0 down at home here at Highbury against London neighbours Chelsea is a bit harder to swallow. Here's Merson as we move into the last 2 minutes of the first half. Craig Burley's tackle gives Arsenal a throw, but they need a lot more than that. They need at the moment a little bit of inspiration. Lee Dixon with the throw. Dixon's throw. Backheaded by Bold. Oh, Linnigan lost it. Look how quickly Petrescu was onto it. Here's Vialli. Here's Petrescu, who's continued his forward run. He's got Mark Hughes in front of him. Well, he was trying to tee it up for somebody, but nobody had quite got into that position. But again, Chelsea looking to hit Arsenal with a very quick break. Hughes. Offside flag was against Vialli, so Arsenal will get possession, and we're inside the last minute of the first half. Mark Hughes, Dennis Wise, Craig Burley. Here's Dan Petrescu. Di Matteo can switch the point of attack to the left side. Steve Clark. No free kick. Referee suggests that Chelsea are in possession. Oh, it's a good back heel. Myers, but there's nobody in the penalty area for him yet. Vialli. Petrescu arrives on the back post. Here he is. Arsenal survive as we move into added on time at the end of the first half, and Bergkamp comes forward for them. Out by Steve Clarke. Here's Di Matteo. Vialli's checked his run because he would have been offside. Oh, and he is just offside this time. Leboeuf threading it through. The Italian straying beyond the last defender. Nigel Winterburn. Here's Di Matteo for Chelsea. Vialli again not quite timing the run. Maybe if the pass had been released a second or so earlier, he would have avoided offside. Hartson's flick on, teed up nicely for Merson to shoot. That goal for Arsenal coming just when they needed it. Paul Merson's first of the season in added on time at the end of the first half. A lovely little flick on by Bergkamp to keep the ball flowing across the penalty area. And Merson shoots unerringly into the bottom corner of the net. Arsenal 1, Chelsea 2 as we move towards half-time. Here's Steve Morrow. Here's John Hartson. Keown lets it run, but in actual fact it will be a... well, it's the final whistle to end the first half. Vialli with the second Chelsea goal after Leboeuf, one of the other summer arrivals at Stamford Bridge, had scored from the penalty spot. But Arsenal saving their blushes with Merson's goal coming right at the end of the first half. Arsenal 1, Chelsea 2. Well, Arsenal start the second half in a happier frame of mind than it might have been. It could have been 3-0 down against vibrant Chelsea. First challenge and a point to a goal kick. As it was, Paul Merson's goal has given them something to cling on to. Here's Dennis Wise. Mark Hughes was just out of play. Martin Keown looking for a colleague in space. Steve Clarke now in a central defensive position, having previously been a fullback with Chelsea. It's a free kick against Keown. Push on Hughes. Leboeuf. Dixon just wants to get this upfield. Dennis Wise. Di Matteo. Out to Steve Clarke. Oh, that's a good run by Mark Hughes. He got away from Keown, peeled off. Too high for Vialli. But here's Craig Burley, and Petrescu waits. Dennis Wise. Vialli. Chelsea have kept it. Petrescu. Hughes with a little back heel. Petrescu. It's a corner. And Lukic, having committed a howler in the first half, a saviour at the start of the second. Chelsea threatening to re-establish their two-goal lead. Dan Petrescu, well found by Mark Hughes' back heel, but here now comes the corner. Burley, that's off a defender, corner number 2. Good early pressure from Chelsea at the start of the second half. Dennis Wise has placed the ball for the corner. Short to Craig Burley. Here's Burley. Hughes with the header. Vialli! Well, it was well wide of the target in the end, but it was another threatening moment. Merson to Winterburn, who had it taken off his toe. That's Steve Bold. Mark Hughes. Covered by Linnigan. Arsenal only suffered 2 home defeats in the Premiership last season, in consecutive games around Christmas time. Here's Dennis Wise for Chelsea. Di Matteo. It only needed a marginal redirection from Mark Hughes. The Italian Di Matteo has scored once in the Premiership, a goal which beat Middlesbrough 1-0. John Hartson heads it on. Bergkamp. Oh, he was tripped by Leboeuf. That will be a free kick, and it may be a caution for the Frenchman. Yellow card for the scorer of the Chelsea penalty goal. Very late with the tattle on Bergkamp. Steve Bold up from the back, as is Keown, as is Linnigan, so there's plenty of height in the penalty area for Bergkamp to search out. John Hartson, who finally had the shot that was blocked. Arsenal quickly take the throw. Here's David Platt on the second half as a substitute. Offside. Crowd are getting at the referee's assistant on that far side because he was a little bit late to put the flag up. Certainly Merson not in agreement with the decision. Off the head of Steve Bold. Petrescu backpedaling. It's kept in play, out by Leboeuf. Winterburn. Outside of play, Arsenal throw. Well, Hartson's foot wasn't really that high, in fairness, but the free kick was given anyway. Myers had his head down low. Here's Dixon, here's Merson, here's Parlour, here's Bergkamp. What a miss. Arsenal looked to have done everything that they needed to do to unlock Chelsea's defence. The Dutchman with one that he'll want to forget. From the edge of the 6-yard box. Knocked on by Andy Myers. There's Andy Linnigan for Arsenal. Keown, well, the whistle had gone for an offside, I think, or maybe it was a handball. Lee Dixon into John Hartson, who hasn't got a lot of support. Dixon's throw. Here's Ray Parlour. David Platt. That's a good ball. Bergkamp put up his hand. Well, it looked to me as though Bergkamp put his hand up deliberately to pull that down as Ray Parlour crossed. Maybe rather fortunate that he's not been shown a yellow card. Parlour. Platt. Hartson. Here's Parlour. Arsenal are lifted by how close they've come to an equaliser. Chelsea under pressure, concede the corner. Erland Johnsen. Maybe Arsenal beginning to sense there's a way back into this match for them. Merson has placed the ball for the corner. Once again, the big three from the back have all come forward. That was Steve Clarke's header out. And his clearance again, Steve Clarke. Out by Leboeuf. There's Craig Burley. Now David Platt, he's only played 45 minutes in a testimonial game so far this season. Dixon. Ray Parlour. Offside by yards, despite the protestations of the Highbury faithful. Di Matteo into Dennis Wise. Erland Johnsen. Leboeuf. Di Matteo finding himself room. Back from Vialli. Dennis Wise. Well, no Chelsea supporter under 25 years of age has ever seen them win a major trophy. It's been that long, even longer since they won the title, 41 years. Here's Leboeuf. Well, that was, well, some of the tackles on the Frenchman looked as if they were more intended to take the man than the ball, but there's no free kick given. Free kick, Chelsea. Ruud Gullit, the player-manager of Chelsea, unable to play at the moment through injury, but may struggle to get into the side. His team ahead by 2-1. Oh, it's a very late flag again. This is Ray Parlour. He hit the back of Andy Myers. Dixon's dismayed to see a free kick given against him. Andy Myers. Mark Hughes. The referee's in his way. Petrescu. Steve Clark. Chelsea do find themselves very neatly with these passing sequences. Here's Di Matteo. Mark Hughes was holding back to avoid offside. Erland Jonsson's header. Linnigan. Oh, it was not enough pace on it for it to reach the fullback. Here's Mark Hughes. Vialli. Petrescu. Craig Burley. One look at the trophy cabinets suggests quite a gulf between these sides. But here's Andy Myers trying to sneak round the blind side. And Lee Dixon. Leboeuf took responsibility, but the flag was up for offside anyway. A very thoughtful Stuart Houston, the caretaker manager, with his hand to his mouth, knows that the job won't be his. Dennis Wise. Petrescu. Oh, it's a good ball to find Vialli. He pulled it down with his hand, the linesman spotted it. Well, the crowd are suggesting by their noise level that they think Vialli ought to have been... Well, I don't know what's going on now, but the linesman is still flagging. Plays down the far end of the field, but the linesman on this near side, or the referee's assistant, has still got the flag raised. And Mr. Keith Burge will have to come a long way over to see what his assistant on this near side has spotted. Animated discussion as the linesman or referee's assistant. It's difficult to remember quite what they're called these days. But it's Mark Hughes who's being called across to be shown a yellow card. An incident off the ball, missed by the referee, spotted by the linesman. Mark Hughes, the second Chelsea player cautioned in the match after Leboeuf. Further delay with it looks like Leboeuf now requiring treatment. Chelsea lose the services of their impressive number 5, Frank Leboeuf. Michael Duberry, an unused substitute so far this season, gets his first appearance as a replacement for Leboeuf. And straight into the action. Winterburn gets it back from Bergkamp. Merson gave it away to Dennis Wise, who was dispossessed and then tripped. Ray Parlour. That'll be another yellow card. So Chelsea now with 3 players cautioned. Paul Merson will take the free kick. Came off Vialli, so that will be a corner. Martin Keown well forward once again as Arsenal prepare to take this corner. This time it's short. Merson. Keown! It's 2-2. And didn't Arsenal work the corner very cleverly? Merson short to Platt. Then whipped into the back post, where the captain, Martin Keown, was waiting. Well directed. Hartson was there to help it over the line, but I think it was in anyway. Certainly Keown thinks it was. It's 2-2. Nigel Winterburn explaining that he's not been crocked, he doesn't want to leave the field. Winterburn's throw. Bergkamp. Duberry, who took it off him. Merson into John Hartson. There's Dixon waiting for it to drop. Ray Parlour. Hartson. Bergkamp. Bergkamp. He should have teed it up surely for Merson. Keown. Dixon. Parlour. Linesman saw handball. And suddenly Chelsea are on the back foot. No free kick. Myers trying to find somebody up front, and they can't relieve the pressure at the moment. Merson. Good play by Merson to Bergkamp. Hit his heels. Erland Johnson. It's going to come straight back at them. Bergkamp is penalised for tugging down Erland Johnson. Steve Clarke. Highbury happy at the moment with Arsenal's fight back, having been 2-0 down, and rather fortunate that it wasn't 3. Di Matteo. It's Ray Parlour working hard. Myers finds Mark Hughes. Di Matteo. Steve Clarke. Di Matteo. Back from Vialli. This is Michael Dewberry. Craig Burley. Clarke. Chelsea do show composure, but that was badly directed. Merson, Bergkamp. Arsenal with a real appetite for it now. Bergkamp bursting through the middle. And the free kick is given. It's right on the edge of the penalty area. Steve Clarke has his say. But Arsenal have responded very well to the situation, which was dire at 2-0 down. A goal back right on the stroke of half-time, now 2-2. And just listen to the crowd here at Highbury. Bergkamp's had a look, Winterburn's had a look, Merson's had a look. And it may well be, well, it's Bergkamp. Oh, so close. In fact, Arsenal are suggesting that Karine touched it, but they don't get the corner. Well, either Karine or maybe somebody in the defensive wall, but it's a goal kick. Yes, there was a push on Vialli by Linnigan, free kick. Craig Burley into Mark Hughes. Handball spotted. Myers for Chelsea. Hughes. Here's Di Matteo. He's got Craig Burley on this left side. Keown quickly back on his feet. Player of the year last season, Martin Keown, enjoying a new popularity at Highbury. Dennis Wise losing out. Here's Di Matteo, though. Arsenal scrapping for everything. Dixon. Chelsea still trying to play their neat, constructive game. Vialli. Di Matteo. Dennis Wise. Petrescu. Di Matteo. Keown just getting it far enough, which was into the arms of Lukic. Andy Myers. Vialli. And falls to Merson. Winterburn on his outside. Dispossessed by Di Matteo. Here's Dennis Wise. Hughes holds it up very well again. Craig Burley. Now Andy Myers. Mark Hughes. Di Matteo. Petrescu. This is Dennis Wise. Chelsea still probing for an opening. Vialli was tackled from behind by Bold. That'll be a free kick. Well, that was Steve Bowles' last act of this match. Bold replaced by Ian Wright to popular acclaim, and there are 16 minutes left. A final instruction from the caretaker manager. So Arsenal have sacrificed a defender for an attacker. Ian Wright came on as a substitute and scored against Leicester. Something similar tonight would bring the house down at Highbury. But first, Arsenal have to defend from this free kick. Dennis Wise to take it. Too high for Dewberry, but Vialli can keep it in play. Well, he went down under a very strong challenge from Lee Dixon, who then has a word with the Italian. Free kick has been given. Lukic screaming at his defenders, and it was missed by everyone. Goal kick. Oh, John Hartson had a little knock at Erling Jonsson then. The referee was close enough to have seen it. I'm sure he's going to have to speak to the Arsenal player. Gave him a little clip across the top of the head. Neither of them seem desperately keen to patch it up. It may sparkle into life again in what remains of this match. Winterburn's header. Dewberry puts it out of play, and Ian Wright hurries to take the throw. Leaves it ultimately for Winterburn. David Platt. Merson. Yards offside. Hartson. He's guilty a few times, John Hartson, of not really looking where the defenders are. He's so intent on getting forward. Here's Steve Clark. It's Keown's touch, and that's a Chelsea throw, which Andy Myers will take. Erling Jonsson. Chelsea still looking for a winner, as are Arsenal. Di Matteo, Petrescu. Somehow it's going to find Myers. Lee Dixon with good pace. That maybe not have been so well directed, but Bergkamp's header was. Players finding very little room. Pass intended for Hartson out wide. Out instead for a Chelsea throw. Craig Burley. It's Petrescu. Safely fielded by Lukic. Ian Wright now on, stealing behind the last defender. Wright! Yes! Wright on the floor in need of treatment, but Arsenal are ahead 3-2, just on as a substitute. And the man who's been the top scorer for Arsenal every season since he arrived in 1991 from Crystal Palace has delivered again. Despite the knock that he got in receiving it, look how he got the better of the defender, and brave enough to score the goal when Karim was bearing down on him. He's waited impatiently on the substitutes bench. But when he was asked to come on and deliver, Ian Wright has done so. The second time that he's scored for Arsenal this season, having come on as a substitute, and having been 2-0 down, Arsenal now lead 3-2. What a turnaround. And this time Wright's offside. Well, he got one in the eye for his trouble, but he doesn't mind. It's the 146th goal of his Arsenal career. Here's Dewberry. And Hughes offside. Well, you wonder how they can keep Ian Wright on the substitutes bench. That was badly directed by him. Here's Di Matteo. That's to Vialli. Craig Burley with the shot. They appeal unsuccessfully to Chelsea for a corner. Keown down to Lee Dixon. It's back from Erling Jonsson. Keown. Over the head by Wise and up in the air by Platt. And Chelsea throw. Well, David Platt on at the start of the second half to help Arsenal's recovery. Here's Clark. He didn't really look. Straight to Platt. And here comes Wright. No whistle, despite players going down. And finally there was an earlier knock on Wright in the penalty area, which the referee ignored. The second one, just outside the penalty area, is given as a free kick. Looks like Andy Myers' protest is going to get him in a yellow card. Just over 7 minutes left. Arsenal with this free kick just outside the area. Parlour in the defensive wall. Merson to knock it up to the back post. Out by Dewberry. And then Petrescu. Here's David Platt. Craig Burley is off as we move towards the last 7 minutes to be replaced by John Spencer. His first appearance of the season after injury, and Spencer knows that he'll have to battle for his place at Stamford Bridge this season. It's Chelsea's throw. And here's Erland Johnson. Steve Clarke. Dennis Wise lost his bearings and lost possession. Bergkamp didn't find Ian Wright. Vialli looks for Mark Hughes. Keown was the covering player. Here's Ray Parlour. He knew that Dixon would be there. Hartson. Parlour was obstructed. Free kick. Wise will have to be careful. He is one of 3 or 4 now. It is Chelsea players who've been shown a yellow card. Just over 5 minutes left as Lee Dixon prepares to take this free kick. Myers with the header finds John Spencer. Back from Dennis Wise. Chelsea now looking to get an equaliser themselves, otherwise there's nothing for them in this match, having led at one stage 2-0. Petrescu. Vialli. Oh, it was a good strike by Di Matteo just outside the area. His goal that beat Middlesbrough 1-0. One of Chelsea's 2 victories this season. The other a 2-0 defeat of Coventry. Ian Wright trying to find Hartson. Michael Dewberry. Inside the last 5 minutes. Spencer. Di Matteo. He's got Myers on his outside. Hughes. Spencer. Out by Winterburn, but here's Myers. And then Dixon. It's a Chelsea throw. In fact, the referee has overruled his linesman, I think. Yes, he's given a free kick to Arsenal. John Hartson has started all 4 matches for Arsenal this season. Stuart Houston giving him his chance, and now looks for the flick on to find Ian Wright. Here's Ian Wright. This is Myers. Wise. Aimed at Michael Dewberry, who did very well to keep it in the first time. The linesman, in fact, decided that it was out. Thought that Dewberry had kept it in. It's a Chelsea throw. Once again, the referee overrules his linesman. We'll be getting a complex, the referee's assistant on this side. Keown. Here's Andy Myers, just 2 minutes left. Vialli, back heel. Dixon was wise to it. Oh, then lost his studs. Corner. There's a minute and a half left on the clock. Erland Johnsen has come forward as Chelsea prepare. Well, it's actually a free kick. Wise takes it. In by Hughes, the wrong side, and goal kick. We're inside the final minute, and Arsenal's dramatic fight back looks at the moment as though it will secure the points. But here's Petrescu, here's Mark Hughes. Chelsea haven't given up yet. There was a free kick against John Spencer, and he has a very sharp word with the referee of disagreement. Off the head of Merson. Erland Johnsen for Chelsea. Here's Dennis Wise. Time running out now for Chelsea. The crowd trying to draw the referee's attention to the fact that the clock here at Highbury shows the game is over. Kafar Karin's come out of his area. This is time added on for stoppages. And both the referee's assistants are flagging at the moment. Keith Burge across to talk to the assistant on the far side. And he's waving towards Ian Wright. Well, it's a yellow card for Ian Wright. An incident spotted by the referee's assistant. Well, he's such a spirited individual, Ian Wright. You just can't contain him. Keown's header only as far as Spencer. That hit the back of Spencer. Bergkamp. Knocked up by Di Matteo. To Petrescu, who keeps it in play. Ian Wright's there to haunt them. Here's Clark. Bergkamp has stolen it. Well, they would have been offside anyway. We're deep into added-on time. Dixon just hoiks it upfield, but he's found Ian Wright. Here's Bergkamp coming from deep to Wright. Chelsea still in with a chance of salvaging something. Here's Andy Myers. Spencer. Here's Wise, Dennis Wise, yes! What a super strike by Dennis Wise. It's 3-3. One of the most memorable London derbies between Arsenal and Chelsea for years. The teams sitting second and third in the Premiership have carved out a marvellous match at Highbury. Chelsea ahead 2-0. Arsenal fight back to lead 3-2, and deep in added on time, Dennis Wise gets the equaliser. It was a lovely bit of control by the England player, and a super positive, dynamic finish. It's 3-3, and surely it's all over now. Dennis Wise with his first goal of the season. Maybe Ian Wright has still got something to say in the match. No. The Dennis Wise goal is the final significant act of a super match. Chelsea ahead with a penalty by Leboeuf after 5 minutes. Vialli squeezing in their second on half an hour. But Arsenal began the fight back with Paul Merson's goal in added on time at the end of the first half. Martin Keown, the Arsenal captain, made it 2-2. Ian Wright on as a substitute to make it 3-2 Arsenal. And then, with virtually the last attack of the match, Dennis Wise making it 3-3. And how nice to see that the players can enjoy the celebration as much as that after a match at times a little bit over-spirited. Chelsea with 4 booked, Arsenal with 3, but the points are shared.